Jai Hind. The topic which I am going to discuss today is Hadoop, which comes in your Unit 5. This is a case study related to cloud computing course. Before starting with Hadoop, we need to see how the paradigm shift, how the revolution take place in the market. If we talk about hardware, focus on the development of the hardware is majorly done during 19 up to your 70, 71 or 72 something around here. Till then, hardware was the main focus in the market. Later on, software becomes the main focus. That is, most of the development, they got revolved around software development, around your software. That is how it works, what are the different, how we optimize the software resources and all these things. But after 1992 or 93, these software applications, they start producing a large amount of data, and now data is the king in the market. If we talk about the data in 2025, now we use the term big data. Why? Because the applications, software in the market, now what is happening, they are developing an enormous amount of data, and this data which it is generating every second is so large that it require a large amount of storage, as well as it require good analytical tools, good you could say tools which can analyze this data, which can find the hidden pattern in this data, which can find the correlation in this data. So the data which is producing enormously, now it is your big data. And what are the major sources of the big data? According to one of the paper, it is your astronomical data, your social media data, and your genomics data, basically related to genes and all these things. These are the nowadays a main source of data from where a large amount of data is being produced. So what are the challenges of the big data? Anyone which is working with this large amount of data, the main challenge they focus is where they are going to store this large amount of data, in which file system they are going to use to store this large amount of data. Moreover, processing speed, hardware, that is to fetch the instruction or to analyze the data, the processing speed of the hardware, it becomes an issue. Then faults, because the data it is being generating lot of data, it contains a noise, lot of noise is present in the data, which might lead to the faulty application or the faulty analysis. Also, the faults at the hardware level is also generating. So a fault tolerance, that is how we will find the faults and how we will find a solution for it, it becomes a major issue. Then the network capacity and the speed, and the need to optimize the resource use. So these are the main challenges when we say data is being generated enormously, or we need to handle the big data. Traditional technologies, your traditional DBMS and all these things, they are inadequate for processing large amount of data efficiently. So we require distributed systems where this data is being stored in a distributed manner, the computation being done in a distributed manner. So these distributed computing system, it becomes a backbone for big data application, for big data storage, for analysis and all these things. Moreover, another issue here is that the data which is being generated here in the big data, it is both structured as well as unstructured data. So the traditional technologies, they don't support either one of them supporting structured, maybe another one is supporting unstructured, but we need to deal with all kind of data. So here the Hadoop, it comes into the picture. Hadoop, it is a framework for running the jobs on clusters of computers that provide a good abstraction of the underlying hardware and software. So basically, it is a framework for running the applications on large clusters, and these large clusters, they comprised of hardware which produces huge data and process this data. So Hadoop, it is basically an open source project which has been launched by Apache Software Foundation. The project was basically created to facilitate the computation which is involved a massive amount of data. Its core component are implemented in Java. It is initially released in 2006, originally inspired by Google's MapReduce and GFS. It is not a single project, but a set of projects which work together because it is an open source. So it is easy for various communities to come together and to develop a platform or a framework. Transforms commodity hardware to number one, coherent storage that lets you store the petabytes of the data, and another one is coherent processing service. So basically, it deals with the storage as well as processing service which process this data efficiently. What are the characteristics of Hadoop? Fault tolerant, it is fault tolerant. It is a scalable, efficient, reliable, distributed storage system. It moves the computation to the place of the data. But what is happening, as we have seen, that computation, it lies on the server. Now the data which you need to work, or the analysis which you want to do analysis, it may be that application may be residing on the server. So you send your data to this server, it will do the analysis and then send the data to you. Here the data is propagating over the network. So in this case, what is happening, once your data is traveling over the network, so we require the good network connection, a good bandwidth, security should be ensured, and other parameters are also need to be ensured. So in the Hadoop, what is happening, instead of moving the data, what we are moving computation to the place of data. Here the single cluster handle both computation and data. It process huge amount of data. It is scalable, that is store and process petabytes of data. It is economical. Why we are saying economical? Because it distributes the data and processing across the clusters of commonly available computers or nodes, systems. They are coming together, they are forming a cluster, and this cluster is solving or storing the data and doing the processing for you. Cluster PCs into a storage and computing platform. That is, these PCs, they provide a uniform environment or a platform to the user, where the user, it can store the data, it can compute the or do analysis on this data. It minimizes the number of CPU cycles, RAM on individual machines, because in Hadoop we are able to work on the cloud. It is efficient. By distributing the data, Hadoop can process it in parallel on the nodes where the data is located. This makes it extremely rapid. Computation is moved to the place where the data is present. That is why it is efficient. Number one, it is parallel, and the computation, that is logic, is moving on that particular machine where data is residing. It is more reliable. Why? Because automatically maintains multiple copies of the data. The user does not need to worry about it, and it automatically redeploys the computing task based on the failures. That is, fault tolerance is automatically inbuilt in the Hadoop. So in Hadoop, what we are having? We are having a file system, and this file system is a distributed file system which is known by the name HDFS, and this is my storage which we are using for storing the data. Then we are working or doing the computation on the data. It is being handled by, for example, by Yarn. So unified computation, it is provided by MapReduce distributed computing framework. Here we are having the physical machines, that is my servers. These are my commodity hardwares, or the hardware which containing a bunch of disk and cores. Some of them may be only capable to store the data. Few of them may be able to do the computation on this data. So this is at the physical level, and this is at the logical level. So at physical level, we are having a cluster, and on this cluster, the Hadoop is running. This Hadoop, it is doing both things. It is storing the data as big data basically, and also doing the computation on this big data. Now the cluster nodes run both DFS and MR, that is your MapReduce, and DFS, that is distributed file system, HDFS. So here on every node, or every cluster node, what is happening? We are storing the data as well as we are doing the computation, and for the computation we require the MR which is residing on each and every node. So here the data, how the data model is being organized. Data is organized into files and directories. Files, they are divided into uniform size blocks and distributed across the cluster nodes. Replicate blocks to handle the hardware failures, that is, here the data is residing and we are also replicating it. We are using the checksum concept here for the corruption detection and recovery. Expose the block placement so that computers can be migrated to the data, that is where the data is being reside, how the things has been placed. All this is known to the cluster. Large streaming reads and small random reads. Facility for multiple clients to append to a file. It assumes commodity hardware that fails, that is, files are replicated to handle the hardware failure. Checksums, they are being used for corruption detection and recovery. Continuous operations as nodes, or sometimes they are known as REX also, they are added or removed. Hadoop is optimized for fast batch processing, that is data location expose to allow computes to move to the data. Stores the data in chunks or blocks on every node in the cluster. Provides very high aggregate bandwidth. This is the Hadoop cluster architecture. So here, as we have seen, that there are two things, computation and storage. On the computation, we are having MapReduce, and for the storage, we are having the HDFS layer. So this is my HDFS layer and this is my MapReduce layer. They are interacting with one another. This is my multi-node cluster, and here few nodes, they are my master and some are my slaves. At the master node, we are having job tracker, task tracker. At the MapReduce level, at the HDFS layer level, we are having name nodes and data nodes. We will later on see what these particular components mean. On the slave, we are having task tracker and the data node. Now your job tracker, it is interacting with both task tracker which have been either on your master or on your slave. Similarly, your name nodes, they are interacting the data node. Now this data node may be present at the master or may be present at the slave. So here we have seen name node and data node. Exactly what is a name node? In the name node, we are storing the information related to the data. For example, here we have seen that this is my file, okay, where it has been copied, how many blocks it has been allocated, and so on, which blocks have been allocated, and so on. So this is my name node, and in the data node, the data is being, you could say, present. exact your data is being present. For example, if I see, if I say, okay, this is the data node, this block is present on this data node also, on this data node also, and on this data node also. So this is how the replicated copy is being kept on different data nodes. So DFS master, that is name node, manages the file system namespace. It controls the read or write access to the files, manages block replication, checkpoints, namespace and journal namespace changes for reliability. Metadata of name node in memory. The entire metadata is in main memory. No demand paging of FS metadata is being done. Types of metadata, it could be list of files, file and chunk namespaces, list of blocks, location of replicas, file attributes, etc. DFS slaves, that is at the, this is my DFS slave, and at the DFS slave what we are having? We are having the data node, and this is my DFS master, and at the DFS master I am having data node and the name node. So at the data nodes what we are having? Serve read or write requests from clients, perform replication task upon instructions by name node, that is if name node says okay, replication is needed to be done, then data nodes will perform that task. Data nodes, they basically either act as a block server. If they are acting as a block server, then it store the data in the local file system. It stores the metadata of a block, for example your CRC information, serves the data and metadata to clients. If the data nodes, it is acting as a block report, then periodically it sends a report of all existing blocks to the name node. It periodically sends the heartbeat to the name node for detecting the node failure, that is one of the node is dead. Then how we will identify? We will identify this thing with the help of the heartbeat. Facilitates pipelining of the data to other specified data nodes. Now come on the MapReduce master. On the MapReduce master, what we are having? We are having the job tracker, and at the MapReduce slaves, we are having the task trackers. Now what is the job of job tracker? It access map MR jobs submitted by users, assigns map and reduce tasks to the task trackers, monitors the task and task tracker status, re-execute task upon failure. Whereas what is the main responsibility of task trackers? It run map and reduce tasks upon instruction from the job tracker. It manage storage and transmission of intermediate output. Secondary name node. Secondary name node, it basically copies FS image and transaction log from name node to a temporary directory. It merges FS image and transaction log into a new node. FS image in temporary directory uploads new FS image to the name node, that is transaction log on name node is purged. What is secondary name node? Basically a few of the name nodes, they become the secondary name nodes. So this is the responsibility of the secondary name node. This is the Hadoop technology stack. In the Hadoop technology stack, these are my light colored are my core Hadoop modules, and the dark colored one, they are the ancillary projects. So here at the lowest level, we are having common libraries or the utilities, above which we are having HDFS, distributed storage. Upon this distributed processing, Yarn is there, and then we are having MapReduce again for the distributed processing. Now what are the ancillary projects? For the query, we could have the, for example, Hive. For scripting, we are having Pig. For the frameworks, we could have the Yarn. For NoSQL DB, we could have HBase. For other ancillary projects, it could be my Ambari, it could be my Avro, Flume, etc. So this is Hadoop technology stack. Now come on the HDFS architecture, that is Hadoop file system architecture. So file system architecture, basically if you see, we are having the name node. Now this name node is connected with different data node, and this name node is also having the secondary name node. So a typical Hadoop cluster installation consists of a name node, secondary name node, and the multiple data nodes. Name node, it is the main point of access of a Hadoop cluster. It is responsible for the bookkeeping of the data partitioned across the data nodes, manages the whole file system metadata, and performs load balancing, which we have seen earlier also. Secondary name node, we have seen earlier also, it keeps the track of changes in the name node, performing regular snapshot, thus allowing quick startup. An additional standby node is needed to guarantee high availability, since the name node is a single point of failure. So we require another node, that is secondary name node. That is, if something happened at this level, then secondary name node, it can take the charge of the HDFS. Data nodes, as we have seen earlier, also that where the data is saved and computation take place. The data node should actually be called data and worker nodes. How the internal data is represented in HDFS? HDFS supports working with very large files. Internally, data, it is split into blocks. One of the reasons for splitting into blocks is that in this way, block objects all have the same size. The block size in HDFS can be configured at the installation time, but by default it is 128 megabyte. Hadoop sees the data as a bunch of records, and it processes multiple files the same way it does with a single file. So if the input is a directory, instead of a single file, it will process all files in that directory, that in a single bunch. It will operate on all those files. So basically this slide is showing that is how the interaction is being done between the client Hadoop, and within the Hadoop how the things are being handled. So basically if we see here, the name node, it performs the block operations on the data node. Data nodes replicate data to each other. That is how they are related with one another. And here, how the client is operating with data nodes, it read and write data from the data node. And with how the client is interacting with the name node, clients perform metadata operations like create, delete file in a directory and read the metadata. That is all the operations which you are performing on your directory. Creating a directory, deleting a directory, creating a file, deleting a file, seeing the properties of a file, seeing the properties of a directory. As you see in your regular file system, you can do all those activities on Hadoop file system, but the thing is that when you are operating, when you are performing these operations, you are interacting with the name node. But if you are reading the contents of a file, then at that time you are interacting with the data nodes. Yarn, the full form of Yarn is yet another resource negotiator. Hadoop jobs are usually managed by the Yarn. It is responsible for allocating the resources and managing the job scheduling. Basically, resource types here are memory and the virtual cores. Here the memory, it is represented with memory MB, and the virtual cores, they are represented as V cores. Yarn supports an extensible resource model that allows to define any countable resource. A countable resource is a resource that is consumed while a container is running but is released afterwards. Such a resource can be, for instance, it can be a GPU. This is the Yarn architecture. We are having the HDFS, And here we are having the yarn, that is the cluster resource management. Now this cluster resource management, it is interacting with, for the batch, it might be interacting with MapReduce. If it is interactive, then it might be interactive with TES. If it is online, might be interacting with this HBase and so on. These are the applications which run natively in Hadoop. How it is basically working? So at the master node, what we are having the resource manager. At the slave side, what we are having the node manager here. And these node manager, they are interacting with application master, and these application master may be interacting with container. Some of the node manager, their application master, they might be absent and only container is present. So the resource manager, the client is sending a request for the computation, which is received by the yarn. It will allocate the resource. So here your request is being trapped by the resource manager to allocate the resource to you. Now, depending upon the availability, it will interact with the node managers and different node managers, and accordingly the resource is being allocated to the client. If you look here, only one application master is here, and this application master is not only interacting with its own container, its own slaves container, but it is also interacting with other containers which are present in other slave sites also. The only thing is that these slave sites, they don't contain the application master. It is installed at only one location. So each job submitted to the yarn is assigned to a container. What is container? It is an abstract entity which incorporates resource, for example, memory, disk, network, etc. These container resources are allocated by the yarn's scheduler. What is application master is doing? It service assigned by the application manager for monitoring the progress of the job, restarting the task if needed. That is, it is a, you could say, a manager, or it is a it is monitoring all the activities. The main idea of yarn is to have two distinct daemons for job monitoring and scheduling. One is global and another one is local. The resource manager in this case is the global, and the application master in this case is the local. So resource manager is the global job manager, which consists of a scheduler and the applications manager. Scheduler, it allocates the resources, and application manager, it accepts the job submissions, restart application, masters on the failure. And the local application manager, that is application master, again it is responsible for negotiating the resources, monitoring the status of job, again restarting the failed task. This particular architecture, that is once we combine HDFS, that is your storage, with the processing. So here it is your client. So at the master, this is resource manager. At the yarn, from the yarn, we are having name node from the HDFS file system. Now the client is requesting a request. Now this request is being captured by the master, and on the type of the request, either that request sent to the resource manager or to the name node. Now if you look here, this name node, it is interacting with the data nodes, and your resource manager, it is interacting with the components related to the yarn. So here we are having up to yarn. As we have seen here, in this architecture, the resource manager is interacting here. Same concept goes here also. But the new thing added here is, once we are combining these two, now these containers, they are able to interact with the data nodes directly. So one interface is coming between client and yarn, one interface is coming between client and HDFS, and there is third interface, since we have combined the two, between your HDFS and yarn. So this is all about how HDFS and Yarn work together. These are the references which I used to prepare the slides. Thank you and Jai Hind.